What's up guys, welcome to Munchkins Gaming, where we take your gaming to the next level. This is Munchkins logging in to bring you another Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia video, and welcome back to another video guide. In today's video is going to be on Desch's Lost Chapter LUFENIA fight. So before we do start, like and subscribe if you haven't already, because it does help the channel and I would really appreciate it. And now without further ado, let's start this video. And of course, we'll start this video off on how you're going to deal with the LUFENIA orb for this particular fight. It starts when the battle starts at 100% of the boss's HP and will disappear when the boss's HP reach less than 50%. You get 2 when both target is hit with an HP attack in one turn. Now, honestly, there's a lot of characters that can do this. Pretty much most of the characters, like 90% of the characters, can achieve this particular LUFENIA orb. You know, there's only a couple of characters really that comes in mind that are very single target specific, just like Lightning, for example, that really just comes out of my head, who's very specific to a single target attack. So any other ones pretty much can meet the requirements. Alright, so now let's move on how the fight works. Now, honestly guys, because the way I approached this fight was accidentally finding out that I kind of cheesed this fight in a way because of my party composition. It wasn't meant to be. I just wanted to test out Yang's LD. So I don't really have a lot to say when it comes to strategies and how the fight actually works. So I'll let you guys know that now. But of course, I mean, we do get information regarding the boss's abilities, so I'm gonna go ahead and mention those. Now, the bosses do have 2 different states, the Magia and Physica. The Magia state basically will reduce the player's party's brave recovery, while the Physica increases the boss's defense and reduces the brave damage it takes. However, this does increase the damage taken when hit by elemental weaknesses. Now, the one thing that I know pretty well is when one of the bosses reach below 50%, they will remove all their debuffs and will enter the Magia state plus. And the boss also cannot be knocked back and will absorb the water element. And the boss does have some AoE Brave plus HP attacks on both states. However, like I said, I never really experienced that, so it's hard for me to say how much they actually use these abilities. Alright, so now that we know sort of like how the boss works, how are you going to deal with this fight? Well, the biggest thing is to delay and to use turn manipulation, just like what I did in this video. So basically, if we can do that, we can actually achieve to the point where the bosses actually don't get a turn. So it's not that hard as long as you have the characters. Of course, there are other options for delaying the boss. If you have, say, Cloud or Aranea, who can do this as well, you know, there's quite a lot of options. The other thing that I would mention is to actually save your strong debuffs on the second half of the fight, as the boss will remove all their debuffs when one of them reach less than 50%, as I mentioned earlier. So for example, you want to use Jack's call ability maybe when they're less than 50%, so you would be able to do some more brave damage in that case. Now, the fight is cheesable, like I mentioned, and you're watching this video. It does require Yang's LD and a lot of turn manipulation using Lightning and Terra. Some people use, you know, Aranea, as I mentioned before, who can delay pretty consistently as well. Cloud, to a certain like a certain degree, can do some delays as well. So there are a lot of options when it comes to delaying the boss. Now, as for other characters that you may want to bring, Squall is probably the character that you really think of that has like splash damage. I mean, he does it with his follow-up, so you wouldn't have any issues when, you know, you're using Squall with the LUFENIA orb. Plus, it's a pretty easy LUFENIA orb, as I mentioned, to pretty much achieve. And, you know, it disappears when the boss is less than 50% of their HP and doesn't really come back. So Squall is one of the best characters to actually bring along for this one, as he does a lot of splash damage. Garland is another one. Lightning I've already mentioned. Balthier if you want that aura. Ramza, 7, you know, all the other characters, really Yang, Terra, Desch, Ignis. There's so many characters to really pick for this particular fight. All you really need to do is to avoid the water element characters such as Mog. Luckily, there's not a lot of these characters right now, so you really shouldn't have much issue. Now, as for the call characters, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. You got Jack, Anya Knight, Aerith, Amethyst Lion, Gabronth, Pinello, and Cloud. So, you know, anyone who can delay or can apply a debuff to help you do your brave damage, go ahead and use these characters. Alright guys, now let's talk about some party compositions that you may want to bring. Of course, the first one I'm going to recommend is the one that you are seeing on this video, which is Terra, Lightning, and Yang. And again, this is a pretty self-explanatory team. Basically, Yang with his LD will basically keep on doing extra attacks every time Lightning and Terra basically, you know, have a turn. And with Lightning's ability to have multiple turns and, you know, in quick successions, plus with her LD really helps. Terra is kind of the same as well. You're gonna be getting or outputting a lot of damage. So culting for this one, Amethyst Lion, Gabronth, and Jack. You can certainly replace you know, Gabronth here. If you want more delays, you can probably go with Cloud. Yeah, and as for support, I went with Garland, who can delay as well. And you know, for the summon, I just went with Ramuh, just in case you need that paralysis, and you know, it gives you that extra little turn. Moving on to the next one, I have Garland, Squall, and Ignis. This is with a cult team of Jack, Amethyst Lion, and again Gabronth, pretty much the same. Support for Garland and summon is going to be Ramuh. So like I said earlier, like Squall is actually a pretty good character to bring in order to fulfill that turn requirement. Plus, you know, with his follow-up attacks, you're doing a lot of HP damage there. Garland can delay, and with Ignis, you're going to be doing a little bit more damage because of his ability to enchant and, you know, put a like a debuff or imperil on the enemy. So this is a great combination of characters. Now, as for the final team that I would recommend is going to be Terra, Plaid, Cecil, and Aranea. Again, Aranea is another good option when it comes to delaying. For the cult team for this one, I went with Anya Knight, Cloud, and Jack, with a Garland support and Ramuh for your summon. Again, pretty self-explanatory. Basically, Aranea is there for delay. Plaid and Cecil has a good holy aura and can enchant the holy element as well with his C65 ability. That way you'll be doing a little bit more damage as well. So it's probably not the most optimal team, but it is a team that can beat this fight. Aranea is pretty well known for her splash damage as well. Even way back, she was actually a monster back in the day when she first came out in the global version of the game. Alright guys, so we're finally towards the end of this video, and I'll give you guys my final thoughts regarding this fight. Honestly speaking, I never really had any problems with this, but because I kind of accidentally cheesed this fight. I didn't think it would turn out that way. I thought, you know, the boss will eventually get turns, but with careful like calls and stuff like that, it really, you know, even when my damage started to really drop, even with all the debuffs that I've applied, it was still pretty, you know, like I still had a lot of extra turns that I was pretty comfortable with, right? So I never really had any issues. So I kind of put this down at like the maybe easy one, unless of course you don't really have the characters. But I guess you can say that with any other fight. Like if you don't have the right characters, most fights will feel pretty hard for you. So I guess if you attempt this like with a normal team that doesn't, you know, use the cheese or anything of that sort, then maybe you might struggle a little bit. But seeing as the, like, you know, the LUFENIA orb counter isn't all that difficult to achieve, I'm highly doubting that this is going to be a really hard fight. So at the end of the day, I think I will just say this is more on the easy side of things rather than the harder side of things. Maybe medium if you're willing to do this proper way, and I put that in air quotes. Anyway guys, I think I'll end the video right here, so please do remember to click like and subscribe if you haven't already. It does help the channel, and I would really appreciate it if you share this video as well to a friend who's struggling. So yeah, follow me on Twitter and on Facebook at Munchkins Gaming. Leave down in the comments below if you did cheese this fight as well with the same team I went with, or if you decided to go for a different route. Let me know down in the comments below. Of course, let me know your strategy for it as well. If you decided to use a different team composition, I would very much be interested in that. And yeah, this is Munchkins logging off. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next level.